Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. A slightly more familiar setting, but with my camera. Still, we're kind of getting used to this now, aren't we? Cut to the chase. What are we tasting? Hibiki Harmony. Everyone's reviewed it. Joe has reviewed it, I'm sure. But I haven't, and I had a little bit of a bone to pick with this particular bottle of whiskey because bought a bottle in December, hated it. Tried it in the past, owned Hibiki 12 many years ago, owned Hibiki 17 many years ago. Bought a bottle of this, thought, oh, it's been a while. Couldn't stand it. This one is currently open in store, so I thought I'd review it. We opened it for a tasting the other day. And it's lovely. It's what I remember Hibiki to be. Do apologise if you hear any sort of additional noise in the background. There's quite a big football match happening, so there's a lot of people walking by. But I remember Hibiki being fantastic. The 12 was great, the 17 was lovely. They've been discontinued in 2015 and 2017 respectively. This is now the only real bottle you can get your hands on for normal money. If you fancy a challenge, there is a 21 released on occasion and a 35-year-old every couple of years. I'm pretty sure they've been older than that as well, but it's not about that. As a brand, it was launched in 1989, and outside of Irish whiskey, which has been the fastest growing product category in all of whiskey, this is the only thing that beats it. As a brand, it is incredible, it is a monster, it's a behemoth, and minus a spot in a very famous Sofia Coppola movie, Lost in Translation, I've never really seen a marketing campaign for Hibiki. Obviously the bottle is extremely pretty, but you know, you don't see this on adverts, but maybe it's because the bottle is so memorable that it doesn't really need to be on an advert. The contents of it are a mixture of Yamazaki, Hakushu and Cheetah. There are other whiskies in it as well that I imagine are produced by Suntory, which don't really see the light of day, made specifically for this. There was a mention in the past of it being matured in some like old wine casks or like plum liqueur casks, I think they were. Don't know if that's still done. I don't know if that would fall underneath the rules and regulations of what now needs to be a Japanese whiskey, because with Scotch whiskey, I believe you can't actually use barrels which have held a stone fruit distillate before. I think that's true. But anyway, the main contents are Yamazaki, Hakushu and Cheetah. Three very, very nice whiskies. And when we smell and taste this, it was honestly surprising. So let's jump into it. The batch I the batch I bought in December, don't have the bottle, can't remember the batch number. It was just so like insipid and boring. And for the money I paid for it, which was like 72, 73 pounds, I was like, ooh, you know, I'd rather buy 3 bottles of Johnnie Walker Black Label, which in my opinion still does more, but it's a different kind of whiskey. The smell on this is incredible, and it smells just like Yamazaki. I don't know if there's more Yamazaki in this particular one, or less grain, or whatever, but the nose on this is just so many different types of wood. Like, it's cedar wood, it's sandalwood, it's got this nice incense thing with it, like incense burners, like what they smell of after all the incense has fallen on it. There's this beautiful kind of freshly sawn, hot wood smell. Like I can feel, I remember doing design and technology in secondary school, and you have to like saw wood and shape it. It smells like a wood workshop, which I love. And it's also got these huge bourbon notes. I don't know if there's been less sherry involvement or less whatever these more obscure casks are, but there's a beautiful smell of like Kentucky Warehouse. Like Kentucky Warehouse in searing heat. You know, the dampness of the casks, the evaporation of it all, the sugars in the air, the caramel. There's also some wonderful just scents to it. My accent, apologies there, scent. Not sense, but scent, like hand scents, like scented hand cream. There's almost like this abundance of fruit. This has been in the glass for about an hour, and I still can't figure out what the fruits are. It's like grated apple, like really kind of shredded apple. You can get like the juice from it. There's a slight orangey thing in there, which I always get from Yamazaki. There's a peachiness to it. I think the official tasting notes mention lychee, and there is, like I say, like a juicy, ripe quality to it. Which I would imagine is the Hakushu coming through, because that for years was like one of my favourite 12-year-old single malts until I couldn't afford to drink it anymore. Then we have the Cheetah element. Now the Cheetah is matured in some wine barrels. It doesn't state what wine casks, but that's for the regular bottle of Cheetah that you can buy on a shelf. I don't know if that mix makes it into this, but it might. But you don't really get anything else outside of bourbon casks, really, which I don't view as a bad thing. There's this really nice like treacly note in the back of it, like hot toffee treacle. And then those scented hand creams of like a Sicilian lemon and orange skin and bergamot and stuff like that. It really does have a lot of that going on with it. So extremely floral, very scented, smells incredible. Just on the nose alone, it gets a very big score. One of my favourite types of smell. But what does it taste like? So still, it's very wood dominant. As this is a non-age stated product, I don't know if that means they've put lesser influential casks in, where it's just the taste of wood and not the taste of what's like influenced the wood, or if it contains some particularly old whiskey. But it's particularly oak driven, it's on the drier side of things. That scented element almost turns into like a creaminess as you kind of work it around your palate. The orange peach thing is gone. None of the fruit remains. I'll talk to you about the finish as I'm talking now, because there's this kind of residual heat and it's kind of filling in the different sides of my mouth. And again, it's wood, it's oak. It's not intense or over the top or even particularly unpleasant. It's actually quite nice. It's just this gentle kind of pulsing of heat, almost like when you like if you chop chilies and you get it on your finger, or like you forgot to wash, or like you touch your cheek. It feels like that slow pulsing of heat trying to run through you. For a blend at 43%, and for something which I imagine is chill filtered and coloured because it doesn't state anything else around it, the texture is quite lovely. It has the texture of things like Johnny Walker Blue Label, but for a fraction of the price. But there's not tons going on in the palate. I feel like this is 2 videos in a row because I had the same thing with Monkey Shoulder. I'm COVID negative, so that can't be a thing. Okay. So the woodiness is turning into almost like a herbaceous note. Thyme, sage, it's very influential green herbs, which in my mind is kind of classically British, but also kind of classically Japanese as well. There's a really, really delicate rosewater note on the back of it. And that beautiful, I mean, I'm a fan of like gin and tonics, but it almost has that dry, like quinine quality of tonic water. Which again, reminds me of like quite refreshing, fresh things. Ooh, I do apologise, lunch is repeating on me. So the nose is really good. It's done incredibly well for itself as a brand, with not much marketing really when you look at the world of whiskey. Although it is produced by Suntory, so that in itself is that. Beautiful nose, the palate, okay. Texturally, quite good. And the influence of those woody notes, I quite like. It's gentle, it's warming, it's very approachable. Finish is nice. It's not bad, it's not incredible, it's just nice. It makes me know I've drank whiskey. It's quite a nice sensation. I have nothing against it. One thing we can say for sure is that this batch is better than the one that was out in December by quite a long way. But I still don't think that it's an incredible whiskey. It's an incredible looking thing, and its story is wonderful, but I don't think the whiskey is incredible. I think it's nice, and that's fine, but I don't think it's anything more than that. If anything, I prefer Hakushu and have a couple of bottles of Toki at home. Most of them are gifts, and I actually think Toki is a little bit more interesting. Maybe it's just because I've been around Hibiki for quite a long time, and I remember it so vividly. But overall, I'll shut up now. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a perfectly good whiskey. There is nothing wrong with it. It has quite insane price. It does the price. Like sometimes it's up here, sometimes it's down here, sometimes it's normal. You know, just in like retail alone, this thing has gone sometimes from 60 to 90 to 80 to 60 to just under 80. So it keeps doing all these very unusual things. Its availability is quite slim. It's not something that's in stock for a long time. You know, you don't see it. You can request it on an order form, but chances are it won't turn up. But overall, I'll stop rambling. I'm going to give it an 8. It is a perfectly good whiskey. It's definitely something you should try. And I was on the Hibiki bandwagon quite a long time ago, but that was when the 17-year-old was £90 a bottle, and it blew my mind. Times have changed, whiskey has changed. This isn't as good as the 17 and it's nearly the same price. So I do have that as a reference in my mind. But it's good. So don't let me berating it put you off trying it. Certainly try it, see what you think. But overall, that is Hibiki, Japanese Harmony, and I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next week. Cheers.